Here we have Honor's new globally released camera-centric phone, the Honor 200 Pro. So how competitive are these cameras, and what else is in store here? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our Honor 200 Pro review. Honor is a brand known for being an offshoot of Huawei, but without Huawei's notorious restrictions, and the 200 Pro is one of its latest offerings. Unlike on Huawei phones, with the Honor 200 Pro you get full support for Google Apps and services, and 5G connectivity. The Honor 200 Pro packs some nice features. Besides its triple rear cameras, there's a dual selfie setup, a high-end chipset, a curved OLED display, and fast charging. The Honor 200 Pro brings quite a unique design too. What immediately catches the eye is the oval-shaped, chrome-accented camera bump. But the finish is also something special. Rather than having a glossy or a frosted finish, why not both? The line separating the two is curvy, just like how the glass back curves at the edge into the thin plastic frame. Overall, the phone is quite sleek and elegant. There is ingress protection here, rated at IP65 against dust and splashes of water, but not water submersion. The display of the Honor 200 Pro is a curved 6.78-inch OLED with a 1224p resolution and a 120Hz refresh rate. The panel is contrasty and plenty sharp at 437 ppi. There is a pill-shaped cutout at the top for the selfie cam and depth sensor combo. You get support for 10-bit color depth here, and HDR10 video too. As far as brightness goes, we measured a maximum of over 600 nits with a manual slider, and this was able to boost to over 1100 nits maximum in auto mode when exposed to bright light. Not the brightest around these days, but still good for outdoor use. There are 3 refresh rate modes: dynamic, high, and standard. The dynamic option would use 60Hz in many apps, while the high mode forces 120Hz wherever possible. The refresh rate might be dialing down when the screen is idling to save energy, but that behavior isn't captured by the onboard refresh rate counter. The Honor 200 Pro boasts a stereo speaker setup with very good loudness. As far as the quality goes, there is some bass and well-presented highs, but the vocals and the midtones are average.
I'm wide awake, but you're a nightmare. I can't escape, I'm seeing you everywhere.
For biometrics, there's an under-display fingerprint sensor, and it's fast and accurate. And you can get the phone with 256 or 512 gigs or a terabyte of storage on board, and that isn't expandable through microSD card. The interface of the Honor 200 Pro is Magic OS 8, running on top of Android 14. It's a lot like older Magic OS versions in terms of look and feel. Like I mentioned earlier, you get the full Google Apps Suite, Play Store, and Google services. It's nothing like with Huawei, which had to come up with alternative solutions. There are also custom features here and there, like cards. You can long press supported apps with a bar under the icon to access widgets from that app. There's also something called the Magic Capsule, which is like iOS's Dynamic Island. An area surrounding the selfie cutout can be used to display things like timers and shortcuts to multimedia. There are some on-device AI-based features too. With the Magic Portal functionality, you can drag anything on your screen onto the bar, allowing you to search, email, or put down a note about the highlighted item. The Honor 200 Pro has an IR blaster, so you can use the phone to remotely control other devices with. And for software support, Honor promises 4 major OS updates and 5 years of security patches to the 200 Pro. The chipset of the Honor 200 Pro is a Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, which is different from the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and less powerful. In fact, in some benchmarks, the Honor 200 Pro falls behind phones running on last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Still, that's not to say that the performance here is lackluster in any way. The Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 is one of the most powerful platforms on the market, even if it's not chart-topping, and there's more than enough power here for gaming and multitasking. The thermal management is important too, and the 200 Pro does a decent job. While there was some throttling during our prolonged stress tests, the performance level still remained relatively high. Powering the phone is a large 5200 mAh battery, but battery life is nothing special. The Honor 200 Pro earned an active use score of 11 hours and 8 minutes in our battery tests, with below average scores when it comes to web browsing and gaming. There's support for 100-watt wired charging here, and the adapter comes in the box too. With it, we were able to charge the phone from 0 to 42% in 15 minutes. Half an hour of charging took it to 75%, and a full charge took 45 minutes. For cameras, the Honor 200 Pro has a 50 megapixel main cam with a custom large sensor, a 50 megapixel 2.5x telephoto cam, and a 12 megapixel ultrawide with autofocus. Honor is excited about the 200 Pro's portrait mode. They've collaborated with Studio Harcourt, a famous photo studio in Paris, to emulate the characteristic look of their portraits. You get 3 presets to choose from: Classic for a signature black and white look in a 5:4 aspect ratio, Color for a moody warm look in 5:4, and Vibrant, a regular color palette in the native 4:3 aspect ratio. Portraits shot with the main cam have excellent subject detection and well-judged and natural-looking background blur. The black and white shots do have an appealing, artsy look to them, and so do the color versions. Having the option to go for a generic color presentation is also welcome. The telephoto camera is likely what you'll want to be shooting your portraits on though. The 70-ish mm focal length makes for a comfortable shooting distance and a flattering perspective. Indeed, the photos have very good detail and lifelike skin tones. However, on either camera, the portrait mode would occasionally fail to create a blurred background at all. Hopefully the issue can be solved via an update. Now let's dive into the general camera quality, starting with the main cam. It captures great photos during the day, with very good detail. The dynamic range is good, and the default vibrant color profile delivers pleasant levels of saturation. Besides that, you can switch to the authentic profile to crank up the contrast and saturation, and get additional vignetting. There's also the natural mode, which tones things down. In low light, the Honor 200 Pro isn't too keen to use night mode processing automatically, though you can force it on with a toggle. Without the night mode, you get blown out highlights. But other than that, the photos are nicely detailed, with well-controlled noise, dependable white balance, and good color saturation. Turning on the night mode will help salvage those highlights, and is generally a better idea in low light conditions. It would have been nice if the phone could apply this without needing to toggle it on. 4K videos recorded with the main camera are quite respectable. They have good detail, excellent contrast and dynamic range, and vibrant colors. Electronic stabilization is always on, and it does a very good job at ironing out shakes and bumps. The main cam captures nice low-light videos too. Detail is good, as are the dynamic range and colors. There is some noise, but the level is acceptable. Moving on to the telephoto camera. It produces excellent images at 2.5x zoom, with great detail. The dynamic range is good, and the color rendition is likable, if not quite a perfect match for the main camera. In the dark, the telephoto cam's default output has plenty of detail, and colors are good looking. It is a bit lacking in dynamic range, with both clipped highlights and underdeveloped shadows. Turning on the night mode fixes both of those, especially the highlights, without introducing any real downsides. For 4K video recording, the zoom camera does an admirable job, better than what we've seen from some competitors. Now the ultra-wide cam. It produces nice photos, with very good detail in most of the frame. Sharpness falls off a tiny bit toward the extremes. The colors look good, and the dynamic range is generally excellent. As this ultra-wide has autofocus, you can use it to take macro close-ups with. And with the super macro mode, you can shoot at the native field of view, as well as with digital zoom applied. You can get some nice results, but of course the unzoomed images are the sharpest. In low light, by default, the ultra-wide camera is particularly prone to clipped highlights. Its images tend to be pretty soft in general too. Turning on night mode helps on both counts, producing better exposures and improving the sharpness. 4K videos from the ultrawide are quite solid. The detail is alright, if a little smoothened in some areas, and things also look good in terms of dynamic range and color. The front-facing setup is impressive, with the 50 megapixel selfie camera and a secondary depth sensor for better portraits. Selfies look wonderful. They've got plenty of detail, wide dynamic range, and lifelike skin tones. The one downside is the fixed focus, though the photos still come out sharp within a reasonable shooting distance. We shot a few portraits with the selfie camera as well, with the help of the depth sensor. They don't get the fancy treatment like on the rear cameras, but they have good subject detection and believable looking blur. So there you have it, the Honor 200 Pro. It brings an attractive design, a good chipset, fast charging, and great cameras with standout portraits and selfies. On the other hand, you don't get full waterproofing, the zoom isn't as long as some competitors, and the larger selfie cutout may not be your cup of tea. Plus, at around $800 at launch, the price tag could be better. But in general, the Honor 200 Pro is a great smartphone, and it should score well on the value scale as the price starts dropping. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for alternatives, you can check out our reviews of the Moto Edge 50 Ultra and the Xiaomi 14. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.